components of this business plan, understand there are different types of business plans, and then I want you to be able to recognize the parts of the plan, and then finally how to put that plan together. So this business plan is a statement of your goals that you want to accomplish and the reasons that you think that you can meet these goals and how you're going to achieve these goals. So this plan is a roadmap for you to succeed. So the purpose of this plan is to act in a way that forces you to think of every aspect of your business. So that is the very first thing that I want to touch upon. That business plan has to be written very well, and it has to be concise. We will use this as a tool to guide us as we make decisions as we run our business. Now, with everything, sometimes you will have to monitor and then adjust what you're doing in times like we saw with the pandemic. You're going to have to find other ways to make money. So when we look at this business plan, it's definitely something that you have to think of if you are a for-profit business, because typically that plan will focus around financial goals. If you're a nonprofit organization, then that plan is going to focus on your mission or what you overall want to achieve as a nonprofit organization. So just because you're a nonprofit organization doesn't mean you won't make money. You still have to make money in order for your business to continue to go on and on. So when we look at these business plans, the first thing we're going to look at, there are 4 main types of business plans that you should be familiar with. The first one is called this quick summary business plan. And this is just a verbal synopsis that lasts no longer than 30 seconds to 3 minutes. And the reason for this business plan is we want to attract or generate an interest from those potential investors, customers, or those partners that we want to pull into our business so that they are excited about our plan. This is kind of like what you see when we watched Shark Tank. This is what we saw. So it's a quick summary to pique their curiosity and get them interested in your plan. The next one is this oral presentation. This is a relatively short, colorful, and entertaining slideshow. So you would have something for your potential investors to see. So I say PowerPoint, but it doesn't necessarily have to be PowerPoint. It could be a movie that you've made. It just is a graphical representation of information that you've developed in order to teach your investors about your plan. The next one is this investor's business plan, and this has to be in great detail because this is the financial aspect of your business. So when you're looking at this investor's business plan, you are putting the numbers together so that your investors or anyone that is planning on investing in your business understands what you're going to use the money for and exactly what you're planning on doing with that money and how you plan on making your business work. Now, the final business plan is called this operational business plan, and this operational business plan is meant to be used within the business organization only. So this is a plan that describes details in great detail how you plan to meet the goals. So this is like a working plan for just the internal employees of the business. So those are the 4 types of business plans, 3 of which you would use if you were starting a business. That operational business plan, you're going to use that if you are already, you have a business and you want to map out an operational plan. Now, the 3 C's that we want to focus on, no matter which plan you choose, they always have to have these 3 C's. The first one is concept, customer, and capital. Capital means the money. Show me the money. The customer is your potential customer. You have to think of everything. Why would your customer want to buy your product, or why does your customer need your service? And then the concept is, how do you differentiate your business from other businesses? And the reason I said differentiate, because when we do our SIM, our virtual business SIM, we have to think of that differentiator so that we can set something apart from other businesses that are similar to ours. So these investors are really busy people, so you have to make sure that your business plan is concise. It should not take them more than an hour of their time to read this business plan from cover to cover. And it should not be more than 20 typed pages. So you want to keep it short and sweet. Now, the parts of the business plan, if you look in your textbook, we do go over the parts of the business plan, and I'm going to touch on each of these. There are 7 parts of your business plan. First of all, it's your idea. The idea explains the product or service, the type of business, and that business ownership. Let's discuss that business ownership. You have the partnership, the proprietorship, and the corporation. Those are the ways that you can organize your business. The next section is this opportunity and market analysis. The opportunity, you are going to investigate that primary market, its size, its trends, characteristics, and its growth rate. Through the use of that virtual business sim, we are going to investigate and examine all of those things in our fictitious city and our fictitious business that we start. The next are your financial strategies. I know that this is not an accounting class, but if you are interested in business, you should seriously consider taking accounting in high school so that you have a background in financial data. So we're going to look at our sales and our expenses, and then we're going to look at some financial statements. The organizational structure, you need to discuss who is going to be the boss, who will be the subordinates. You must clearly outline everyone's role in that business so that there are no questions on who is responsible for doing what. The next thing is this legal structures. You always have to think about any intellectual property that would need to be trademarked, patented, or copywritten. Contracts that need to be drawn up. If it's a partnership, you need to have a partnership agreement. If you're buying merchandise, you have to have a contract with your vendors, insurance, taxes, and any other regulations if you are a business that has to have government regulations. That's legal structure, so you would have to consult an attorney. The next section is this business management section. You have to discuss the day-to-day operations, how you're going to purchase the merchandise, how you're going to get your products, how you're going to distribute your products to your customers. So that has to be in great detail. And then finally, this plan for growth. We don't want to stay stagnant. We want to grow. So looking forward, what do you foresee in the future? So I like to talk about franchises because McDonald's started out as one restaurant in California, 2 guys named the McDonald's brothers. They had a restaurant where they came up with almost the Henry Ford idea for fast food. They only made hamburgers, cheeseburgers, French fries, and milkshakes, and they did it very well and efficiently. Then this guy named Ray Kroc came along. He was selling them this mixer for their milkshake machines, and Ray Kroc was impressed with their business and decided, hey, I want to buy your business. So Ray Kroc came along and bought McDonald's business and then went and did something called franchising. He took the McDonald's Corporation, formed a corporation, and then allowed others to buy a franchise so that they too could be business owners. So that potential for growth, you always have to be thinking about the future and how big you can get. Putting this plan together. Now, the very last thing on your test I'm going to ask you is about this thing called the executive summary. This executive summary is written very last. So you put your plan together, and then the last thing you do is you write this executive summary, and it's 1 or 2 pages typed. And in that executive summary, you come up with a mission statement, your business name and location, the date that your business will begin, your owner's name, function, and contact information, any opportunities, products, or future plans, and then you put the financial economics of one unit in this plan. We did touch upon that in a previous chapter, but we will see it in our virtual business simulation. So the executive summary is written last, and it is a summary of the details of your plan. These are the standard business plan sections. You can see you have a standard plan and then you have an advanced plan. We'll go through the business plan with our sim, and if time permits, we'll work on a very basic business plan, not the advanced business plan. Okay, in section 6.2, we're looking at business opportunities. And our objectives are ways that we recognize business opportunities, and then explain how we can use our thinking to generate ideas. And then we're going to compare those business opportunities and then describe how we evaluate those business opportunities. Because not all business ideas are successful ideas. So a business opportunity is a consumer need or want that can potentially be met by a new business. So if you think about businesses that we have in the Harrisburg area, we have a lot of different businesses. And one of the new businesses that opened up in the last few years are these trampoline parks like Get Air. So we have businesses. The business opportunities arise because of a demand for something new. So we look at these opportunities in ways that we identify. How do we come up with these? Well, first of all, most of these businesses solve a problem. Most of the businesses that you see have arrived where they are because they wanted to solve a problem. The second one is there are changes, ever changing. Just think about the technology that's changing. So we look at the opportunities that are arising from those changes that are happening. New discoveries create an opportunity for people to start a new business. Let's think about the medical technology and surgery, robotic surgery. So the use of robots in surgery has brought about a need for technology equipment, not only a medical degree, but you also need someone in technology to service the equipment and make sure that the program is running. And then the last thing we're looking at is these existing products and unique knowledge. So existing products and services, you can get ideas from things that already exist, and then take those ideas and then find a way to improve those ideas or those products, and then come up with something new. The example that you have in your book that I asked you to look at was the earthquake nails. We've had nails for years, but now they're coming up with products that are more durable when it comes time for building in areas where they are more prone to earthquakes. And this other concept of unique knowledge, sometimes you know more about something than someone else, and you may have that idea that takes that idea and then turns that into a product or service that benefits others. So I always like to think about Elon Musk because he just thinks outside the box. So think about what's going on in his mind, and if that's something that excites you, then you should think about creating something if you're into inventing things. So we're looking at the creative process. For the creative process to work, you have to look at it is in terms of critical thinking, and that's the process that involves looking at a situation or object in new ways. You're going to ask a lot of questions, and you're going to challenge things that are already there. Sometimes you have to think backwards. In order to get to an idea, you have to think, how did we get to this particular point? And then you have to be very flexible, because sometimes you're going to get shot down and people are going to reject you, but you have to be flexible and adversity. You have to be able to adapt and be able, you have to be able to react to setbacks. When you are doing this thing called brainstorming, you just think of as many ideas as you can and don't rule anything out. And don't be afraid of voicing your opinion and looking like a fool, because sometimes brainstorming is a way for you to come up with great ideas. The last thing is we want to, oh no, that's not the last thing. We want to draw this idea map. I like using sticky notes to come up with ideas and sketch things out, and then use the sticky notes, write the sticky notes, and then put the sticky notes in different orders. You can use a whiteboard, you can use a poster board, you can sketch out your ideas. Brainstorming, bounce ideas off your friends, your family, other people. Sometimes they'll say something and it might just pique some idea in your brain. And the last thing I want to say with this, when you're thinking, and this is why I harp on you all the time, you want to be able to daydream, let your mind wander, and think about things rather than always being engaged by something stimulating you around you. Let your brain have some time to think and be creative. So how do we turn these ideas into opportunities? Well, you don't have to come up with something brand new. You can just buy an existing business. But there are 4 definite ways that you can come up with ways to turn an idea into an opportunity. The first one is you can start a business from scratch. Now, when you start a business from scratch, it is the most difficult way to do this because you are starting from the ground and you're building the business. So the biggest disadvantage is that risk or uncertainty that you have in starting your business. You don't have something that's tried and true, so you have to prove that it's going to work. The second way is you can buy an independent business. You can buy a business that already exists, and if you want to start a business, you can find a business that's for sale. So there are always businesses for sale. You just have to buy a business from a business broker. The third way is the way that I mentioned previously. You can buy a franchise, like in the case of McDonald's, Wendy's, Taco Bell. You can buy a franchise. Now, the disadvantage in buying a franchise is it's expensive and you always have to continually pay a royalty to the franchise. But the advantages to buying a franchise is you always have that support from the corporation. So you always have someone that can help you, someone that you can rely on to give you help for that franchise. And then the last one is you can become an inventor on your own. That's one thing that you can do. Come up with an idea for a product and then develop it. Okay, how are we going to develop our opportunities? Evaluate your opportunities. When you look at this feasibility study, well, I do want to back up for just one thing. This becoming an inventor, I want to touch upon the idea of making something called a prototype. A prototype is a working model of what your idea is. So it sometimes costs a lot of money to develop a working prototype, but sometimes if you're looking for an investor, you have to have a working prototype. I want to tell you about Bill Bowerman. Bill Bowerman started this company called Nike. And he did it with this guy named Steve Prefontaine, who ran for him at the University of Oregon. Bill Bowerman took his wife's waffle iron and melted the soles from rubber in the waffle iron and custom-made running shoes for his distance runners. And that's how the idea for Nike was born. So you have to come up with this thing called a prototype. Now, when you're working on this thing called a prototype, you want to make sure that you have this thing that's an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. You may have heard of that in the news when we were looking at some things that were happening in the news. If you settle a case with someone and they award you an amount of money, sometimes corporations will make you sign this non-disclosure agreement so you cannot divulge any of the details of that settlement. So it is kept hush-hush. So when you are developing a working prototype, you have to make sure that everything relating to that prototype is hush-hush because you don't want someone to open their mouth and let your product idea out. So now we look at this thing called this feasibility study. Feasibility is how likely it is that you can pursue something that it will actually be able to be a business idea. So we look at this thing called a feasibility study, and there are 3 feasibility studies, 3 ways that we look at this feasibility study. The first is this cost-benefit analysis. So we're looking at it in terms of what's the cost and what's the benefit, and do the benefits outweigh the costs? If they do, then the opportunity for that business venture may be a worthwhile business opportunity. So you actually have to think things through, but here's the challenge. It's difficult to put a value on those things that are intangible, like your time. I find it very difficult to put a dollar amount on my husband's legal work because I come from the background where I don't think that you should price gouge people. So when I look at how much he makes per hour, I always feel like it's better to give to your client than it is for us to have. So most attorneys charge a third of whatever they recover. I always tell my husband, don't you think that that's a bit too much for what we've done? So I always find a way to give him a little bit of a guilt trip on that's a lot of money. So I sometimes undervalue his time, which is not a good thing. The second way is this opportunity cost analysis. When you're looking at this opportunity cost analysis, you're looking at that thing. When you're looking at this factor, you want to make sure that you are looking at the potential benefits that you're going to forfeit when you choose one course over another course. So the example I want to give you is two people. One graduates from high school and goes to college for 4 years. The other one graduates from high school and decides that they want to go to work full-time at Hershey Foods. Now, the person that's going to a 4-year college gives up or forgoes getting a full-time job so they can delay employment for 4 years until they graduate from college. So they're giving up one thing to pursue something else. So it's an opportunity cost is what you're giving up to get the next best thing. Okay, the last thing we're looking at this SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Pretty self-forward and directed. Okay, so that's our lesson for today.